想象一个国家，领导人在电视上喊仇恨敌人，他们的孩子却在敌国开着法拉利。2026年1月，伊朗的街头爆发了巨大的抗议，这不只是关于钱，更是关于一个巨大的谎言。我们开始吧。
The leaders say our enemy is America, but we know the real enemy is right here, and the end of the dictator is here. These are the powerful words being shouted by millions of people in the streets of Iran in the first week of January 2026. This is the heart of the great protest. The whole world is watching this big change with great attention. These people are in the streets because they cannot live like this anymore. The protest is about money, food, and the black gold under the ground. Most of all, it is about how the system takes everything from the citizens to feed a small group of powerful men. Two different worlds. To understand why people are so angry, we must look at the two groups of people who live in two different worlds. The first group is very small but very powerful. They control almost all the money in the country. These are the top leaders, high generals, and their families. People call the children of these leaders the rich kids, or the noble children of the powerful. These children live like royalty in a modern world. There are between 3,000 and 4,000 of them living in the United States, Canada, and Europe. They live in large houses with high walls and heavy iron gates to keep the poor away. They own many expensive cars from Europe, like Ferraris and Porsches. One car can cost more than a worker earns in 30 years. These rich families have bank accounts in foreign countries. They spend huge amounts of money every day on fancy clothes and expensive watches. While the nation struggles, these noble children enjoy lives full of luxury and gold. But their luxury is built on a very big lie. The secret of the rich. There is a big secret about these leaders that everyone is starting to see. Their public life and their private life are completely different. In the morning, they shout, "Death to the West," on television. They tell the people that Western countries are the enemy and must be destroyed. But in the afternoon, they send the nation's wealth to those same Western banks. Living in the West is the ultimate goal for these leaders. Their children and many relatives already live there. The amount of money they take from Iran is hard to imagine. These children hold more than $100 billion in foreign banks. This is a giant amount of wealth. It is more than what the whole nation earns from selling oil in some years. Even the leaders who fight most fiercely against the West send their families there. For example, the son of the vice president lives in Canada. The children of the foreign minister live in the United States. Many of them hold Western passports or special papers to stay there forever. The leaders shout at the West, but they use it as a safe box for their stolen gold. This double life is the first lie, but it is not the only one. A new kind of protest. Lies cannot last forever. In the streets of 2026, the people show they no longer believe the stories told by the government. For 40 years, the government forced people to shout, "Death to America." They wanted the people to believe that all their pain came from other countries. Then in 2026, the people have stopped saying those old words. When they shout, "The end of the dictator is here," they are looking directly at the palaces of the generals. This happens because the people have changed how they think. The leaders can no longer use the foreign enemy to hide their own greed. The people realize that the ones taking their bread and oil are not in Washington or London. The ones taking their wealth are living right there in the big houses in Iran. As a result, the wall of lies has started to fall down. Now that the lies are falling, we can see the real pain of the people. The struggle of normal people. The leaders are so rich. Why are the people so poor? To see the truth, we must look at the second group of people. This group is very large. It includes teachers, doctors, factory workers, and farmers. Imagine a teacher in a city. He looks at his wallet at the end of the day. He is a smart man who loves his students, but his pocket is empty. Every day he waits in a long line just to buy a simple piece of bread. In early 2026, the life of a worker in Iran is a struggle for survival every hour. The struggle for a home is the hardest part. In Tehran, a normal apartment costs about $400 a month, but the average worker only earns about $200. This means the rent is 2 times higher than all the money a worker makes. They cannot pay for a place to live even with a full month of work. As a result, many families live in very small, old rooms far away from the city. The real value of a teacher's pay is less than $150. To understand how low this is, imagine having only $5 a day for food, clothes, and a home. This is not enough to live. After paying for a place to sleep, there is almost nothing left for food or medicine. Poverty in Iran is now everywhere you look. The trap of high prices. Low pay is only half of the problem. The other half is that the price of everything is exploding. A father stands in the market and looks at a small piece of meat. He realizes it costs as much as his work for one whole week. In late 2025 and early 2026, the price of basic food went up by 300% in just 1 year. But the money in the pockets of normal people did not grow at all. Imagine if a bag of rice cost $1 last year, and now it costs $4. Eating meat has become a luxury that most people cannot afford. The price of red meat has risen to about $20 for 1 kilogram. For a worker with an average salary, buying 1 kilogram of meat takes 1/4 of their entire monthly pay. Because it is so expensive, the amount of meat that people eat has fallen very fast. Many families have not eaten meat for months. They can only afford plain bread and cheap beans. This growth of prices is like a storm that has destroyed the lives of the poor. They are being pushed into a corner where they must choose between eating and having a home. Then while they struggle to buy bread, the government takes even more from them. The unfair tax system. The tax system is another way the government takes from the citizens. The government needs more money because the leaders have spent so much of the nation's wealth in other lands. So they put heavy taxes on normal people. Every time a person buys bread, water, or a shirt, they must pay a tax. The government also takes a big part of a salary before the worker even receives it. But here is the most unfair fact. The richest and most powerful groups do not pay any taxes. There are big religious groups run by the government that own 60% of the wealth in Iran. But they are actually huge businesses. They own the biggest factories, land, and hotels. Because the government controls them, they are free from all taxes. Normal people pay the bills, while the rich leaders keep the profit. But where does all this tax money go? Money for foreign wars. People wonder, if there is no money for meat, Why is there money for guns in other lands? This is another thing that makes people angry in 2026. While normal families are hungry, the government sends billions of dollars to other countries. The leaders use the nation's wealth to pay for fighters in other lands. They use a secret way of fighting where they pay small groups to attack the enemy in many different places. The leaders do this because they want to keep the war far away. They want the smoke and fire of war to stay in other countries. But this plan costs a huge amount of money every single day. For the people of Iran, this is a terrible injustice. They see millions of dollars going to foreign groups while the price of bread is too high. This is why the people shout, "Not for Gaza, not for Lebanon, my life only for Iran." They are tired of being hungry while the leaders play a game of war. But how did this proud nation fall into this trap? Why is Iran poor? How did a country with so much oil become so poor? The story of today's hunger began with mistakes made more than 100 years ago. In 1901, Iran had a king named Mozaffar al-Din Shah. He did not care about the future of his people. He only wanted money for himself so he could travel to Europe for expensive vacations. At that time, the king and his friends did not know the real value of the oil. They saw only black, smelly water and thought it was useless. A man from England offered the king £20,000 in cash. It felt like a mountain of gold to the king. He thought he was making a very smart deal. He signed a paper that gave the English company the power to take the oil. This was a very bad deal for the people. In this deal, the English company took 84% of the profit. Iran only got 16%. This was the first time the nation's wealth was given away for a leader's greed. But eventually, the people tried to change this. Taking the oil back. Then 1951, a brave man named Mossadegh became the leader. He wanted to take the oil back for the people. He said the oil was the heart of the nation and could not be given to foreigners. He passed a law to make the oil belong to the nation. This was the first time Iran tried to get its wealth back. But the Western countries were very angry. England led a movement to stop the rest of the world from buying Iranian oil. They told other countries that buying this oil would end their business with England. For 2 years, Iran could not sell its oil. Then, in 1953, foreign secret police helped to remove Mossadegh from power. They put the king's son back on the throne. This was a victory for the foreign companies. The 50-50 deal. After this, a new oil deal was made in 1954. This time, Iran and the foreign companies decided to split the profit 50-50. Iran got 50 pieces of the cake instead of only 16. Because of this deal, a huge amount of money flowed into the country. For the next 25 years, Iran's economy grew very fast. The king used the money to build roads, airports, and tall buildings. However, there was still a problem. The wealth flowed to only 1,000 powerful families. The 50-50 deal helped the country grow, but wealth was not shared fairly. People looked at the tall buildings while they remained poor. This unfairness led to the next big change. The Revolution of 1979. In 1979, the people had a big revolution led by Ayatollah Khomeini. They thought he would save them from greed. Khomeini promised free water and electricity. He said he would take the oil money from the king and put it on their dinner tables. The people believed him with all their hearts. They pushed the king and the foreign companies out. When the new leaders took the oil, they also took all the factories built by foreign companies. These things were worth billions of dollars. The foreign companies asked to be paid back for their property. That is the fair way to do business. But the new leaders said no. They took everything for free and paid zero money back. This act made the Western world very angry. The Wall of Rules. To the Western countries, this felt like a huge robbery. They lost their oil and their factories without receiving any money. Iran grabbed their wealth without following any rules of honesty. This is a big reason why Western countries started trade rules to punish Iran. They wanted to block Iran from the world's money because it took their property. Then, in late 1979, some people took American workers as prisoners in Tehran. This is called the hostage crisis. Because of this and the stolen property, America was very angry. They froze all Iranian money in American banks and stopped all trade. This was the start of the modern wall between Iran and the West. Behind this wall, the new leaders began to change. Dragon slayers become dragons. The men who led the revolution were once dragon slayers. They had fought against the king because they said he was greedy. But as soon as they tasted power, they changed very quickly. They realized that controlling the oil meant they had the keys to a mountain of gold. These people had fought to change the government, but they soon changed into people who only care about their own benefits. It is like a drug that makes you want more. They looked at the billions of dollars from oil and decided this wealth was their reward. They stopped being protectors and became the new masters of the oil. Khomeini died in 1989, and his student, Khamenei, became the new top leader. Khamenei took over the entire business empire that the revolution had stolen. He made sure every general was tied to this money. He knew that if he let everyone get rich from the oil, they would never turn against him. This is the truth of the resource curse. Under Khamenei, the system of greed grew even bigger. The failure of help. The new masters of oil needed a way to keep the people quiet. They did give some help to keep things like bread and water cheap. But this help was very small compared to the wealth that was stolen. This happened because the price of food went up much faster than the help from the government. The leaders took over big companies using a trick. They said they were selling companies to the people, but they really gave them to their own friends. These shadow companies are run by the military and religious groups. They own more than 60% of all the wealth in Iran. Only about 10 or 12% of businesses are truly owned and run by normal people. This means normal people have very little chance to build their own future. The nuclear problem. By the early 2000s, another reason for pressure appeared. The nuclear problem. Western countries became afraid that Iran was building a nuclear bomb. They said a country with such a bomb is too dangerous for the world. World leaders told Iran to stop, but Iran did not stop. So, the United Nations made very strong trade rules. This made the wall between Iran and the world even taller. The whole world stopped buying Iranian oil in a normal way. It became impossible for Iran to use international banks. The country was cut off from the world's money. But the leaders found a way to move the oil in secret. Shadow ships in the dark. But how do they get the gold if the world has a wall of rules? They go into the dark. The leaders found a way to make even more money because of these rules. Because the world stopped buying oil officially, The trade moved into secret. Only the government and secret police move the oil now. They use what we call shadow ships. These are old ships that hide their identity. When they are in the deep ocean, they turn off their GPS radios. This makes them invisible on world maps. In the dark of the night, they move the oil to ships belonging to foreign businessmen. Because this trade is secret, the money never goes into the national bank. Instead, it is paid in cash or through secret accounts. This wealth goes directly into the personal pockets of the top generals and the leaders' family. This secret trade helps the leaders, but it destroys the money for everyone else. The money has lost its value. In 2026, the money in Iran has lost all its value. The reason for this is a system called the magic money desk. This system creates two different price tags for money. The first price tag is very cheap. This price is only for the friends of the leaders. They can buy dollars at a very low cost. They tell the people this cheap money is for buying food or medicine for the poor. But this is a big lie. Instead of buying food, these rich friends use the money to buy houses for themselves in London or Dubai. The second price tag is for everyone else. For normal workers and shop owners, the price of money is 35 times higher. This means a normal person must pay a huge amount of money to buy anything from other countries. The friends of the leader use a trick to make even more profit. They use their cheap money to buy products from outside the country. Then, they sell those products to normal people at the very high price. They grow rich by sucking the life out of the economy. This is why the currency of Iran is now worthless. Some hoped that other countries would help, but the help was not free. Trade with neighbors. Some think other countries like China or Russia can save Iran, but this is not true. When Iran sells oil to its neighbors, it is not a fair deal. Because Iran cannot sell to the whole world, the neighbors demand a very big discount. In 2025 and 2026, Iran sold its oil for 30% less than the real price. Millions of dollars are lost every single day. Sometimes, the neighbors do not pay with cash. Instead, they give Iran special papers. These papers force Iran to take things made by those neighbor nations. Instead of getting money to build its future, Iran must take the products that others want to get rid of. The result is that these products fill all the stores in Iran. Why build a factory if foreign things are already everywhere? In the last 10 years, almost half of the factories in Iran have closed down. The country is bleeding to death. The brain drain. When a country is bleeding, its best people are the first to leave. Imagine a young student looking at an airplane ticket. She is a top engineer, but she sees no future in her home. Every year, more than 150,000 smart people like her leave. They go to America, Europe, or Australia because they see no future at home. It is like a body losing its best blood every day. This feeling of hopelessness is very strong in schools. A survey shows that 80 out of every 100 university students want to leave Iran after they finish their studies. This is one reason why the big protest did not happen sooner. The people smart enough to lead were often the first to leave. But by 2026, the door to other countries has closed. Many young people are stuck in Iran. They have nowhere else to go, so they must stay and fight for their home. The dying land. While the leaders count their gold, the very land they rule is dying. By January 2026, the country is also breaking because of the environment. For 20 years, the leaders did not fix the water pipes or power lines. They spent the money on secret police or foreign wars. Powerful building groups inside the government wanted to start big projects for profit. They built many dams that the country did not need. These dams stopped the water from reaching farms and lakes. One of the biggest lakes, Lake Urmia, has lost 90% of its water. It turned from a beautiful blue lake into a desert of white salt. Now the farmers have no water for their sheep or wheat. In the winter of 2026, the lights go out for 8 hours every day. People sit in cold houses and realize the dragons have eaten the very ground beneath them. This realization is what brought everyone into the streets. Standing at the gates of power. By the second week of January 2026, the protest has reached every corner of the country. The sound of millions of people shouting can be heard through the stone walls of the palaces. This time, the people are standing right in front of the gates of power. They are not leaving. This happens because the people are more afraid of hunger than they are of the police. The religious mask of the government has also fallen off. People see that the men who talk about God are the ones who own the big hotels and oil ships. They realize that religion was used as a tool to keep them quiet while the leaders were busy making money. Khamenei tells his generals to kill more people to save the system, but the generals are starting to worry about their own lives. A sinking ship. But the generals are facing a very difficult choice. Nobody knows who to trust. Each general is thinking about his own future and his own money. They look at the millions in the streets and worry. If they help the leader today and the government falls tomorrow, the people will punish them. But if they stop helping now, they might make a deal with the new leaders. The generals are no longer loyal because of belief. They are only loyal to their bank accounts. They see that the current system is like a sinking ship that cannot be fixed. They realize that to save their own heads, they must dump all the blame on the old leader. They begin to tell the media that they were only following orders. By shifting the blame, they hope to wash their hands and keep their stolen gold. This leaves the supreme leader with no one. The leader is alone. Greed built this system, and greed will destroy it. For the supreme leader, the end is the most tragic of all. He is trapped in his room, deep under the ground, while his followers turn on him. He looks for a way to escape, but there is no door open. The rich children of the generals have already flown to Canada, but the Western countries will not take the old leader. He tries to talk to his allies, but they also turn their backs. They realize that he is now a burden. Protecting him would mean losing the chance to make business deals with a new Iran. Khamenei finds that he is truly alone. He cannot go to the West, and he cannot go to his allies. He has nowhere to hide. The walls of his underground room are thick, but they have become his prison. In the end, he must face the people he ruled with fear for so long. The broken circle. When we look at all these facts, we see a dark circle. This is the resource curse of the land. It began with greed, and it ends with hunger. The system took over everything for private wealth. They used this wealth to buy the loyalty of their generals. They taught the people to hate the enemy, to hide their own lies. But hatred does not build factories or grow wheat. It only brings poverty. Now, the country stands at the edge of a deep hole. Normal people are waiting to see if they can build something real and honest this time. The future of Iran is being decided right now in the cold streets of January 2026. The shadows of the past are long, but the people are finally walking out of the dark. They are standing together to build a new world, and for the first time, their whole future is right in front of them.
太棒了，你把故事听完了，你离英语自由又近了一步。欢迎加入频道会员，支持频道发展。会员可获得影片的中英文对照学习资料、跟读练习视频、影片、MP3 文件等福利。这里是像学母语一样学英语频道，我们下个视频见。